Hello, my name's Niranjan, the host of Master of Your Crafts podcast. Learning from leaders who are continuously inspired, passionate, and driven to align with their soul purpose, sharing their gifts to bring healing to others. The music is composed by Rebecca Everett. Today is episode number 21, where we'll talk to Nilima Bhat. She's a leader in the field of personal mastery, leadership, gender equality, and well-being. She's a co-author of 2 books, Shakti Leadership and My Cancer Is Me. Nilima is the founder of a global Shakti Fellowship Program for women and changemakers. So hello and welcome to Nilima. How are you?
I'm good, Niranjan. So nice to be on this podcast with you.
Thank you for being available and open to sharing some of your wisdom and your nuggets that you have garnered over the years, because I know you have a very enriching experience that you share with the world through all the work that you've done in the corporate world and now into more conscious awareness space that you're in. What is it you believe about yourself? And do you feel that belief defines who you are?
I would like to aspire to be a yogini. And a yogini is a woman who knows how to straddle all polarities, co-hold all polarities, and integrate them and work with them. So the inner world and the outer world, the right brain and the left brain, the masculine self and the feminine self, the inner relationship with self versus the relationship with others. So I see the yogini as a medial woman who straddles all the polarities and brings them into alignment and coherence within herself, and then brings the gift of that to her context so that the context she's in can also find its balance and its congruence, its alignment.
Nice. Yeah. And what took you to that space that nudged you to crave that balance and crave that polarity, I guess, right? To look for that in between.
When I joined the corporate world after I graduated and did a postgraduate diploma in social communications and media, and I joined corporate communications with pretty big multinationals. And I was on a high, it was all going great. And after 10 years, when I was looking after CopComs for 25 countries across Asia Pacific for ESPN, Star Sports, which was a Disney and News Corp joint venture back then, I suddenly had an existential crisis of questioning myself and who am I and am I making a difference? And I felt I'd been not really connecting the deepest sense of right that I have about what needs to be done in the world. I wasn't being able to connect that to the work I was doing. In the early part of my career, it was a very creative and innovative canvas for me. So I had a wonderful time. But as you grow in public relations, corporate communications, the stakes get higher, it gets complex, and the juice kind of leaves
Right.
the job. And it's all about being very, very careful about how you're being perceived by your audiences. And I found a disconnect. I was no longer able to flow with my natural joy in what I was doing. I knew there must be a better way to. Today, all this has become good language that everyone uses. You know, how do I bring my whole self to work? And
yes,
we didn't have language like that back then. This was 1998. But I knew I needed to bring my whole self to work, and I wasn't able to do that.
Yeah.
And so I left full-time corporate work, and I took up the study of yoga and Vedanta to go in search of deeper meaning and purpose. I came to your country, to Canada. I qualified as a Shivananda yoga teacher. My husband got diagnosed with colon cancer when we were in London, and so I went on a journey to holistic and integrative medicine. And everything we learned, we started bringing to our leadership and coaching work. So by this time, we set up our own conscious leadership consultancy called Roots and Wings. We returned to India for him to recover his health. So having lived in Singapore, London, Hong Kong in global expat roles, we came back to India to start practicing and teaching how to live and lead more consciously.
Mm-hmm.
And I started bringing all that I was learning from yoga and different psycho-spiritual traditions, whether it's Jungian psychology or Taoism and mindfulness, all these practices. Perhaps looking back, I think my husband and I were among the early ones. Like today, it's become so widespread.
Yes.
But I came to this before yoga became a global phenomena.
Mm-hmm.
So perhaps we were the among the first wave. Since your podcast is called about our craft, the craft I sought to create is how do I bring consciousness to leadership and organizational culture through proven, ancient, and modern paths and practices from all around the world. How do we curate for best practices? So I often joke I've been like a pig sniffing for truffles. I go in search of, how do the Buddhists do this? How do the Taoists do this? How do the Sufis do this? What is there in the Sacred Heart of Christianity, and what is there in the Kabbalah, and what is there, of course, in integral yoga, and always with the intention, much as my own love for these deep wisdom traditions, that is my own personal interest. But what of that can be brought to modern day organizations and leadership and cultures in organizations so that we can bring our whole selves to work.
Yes, absolutely.
and live our purpose at work and amplify each other. And so I became part of the conscious capitalism movement with Professor Raj Sisodia. It's also founded by John Mackey, the founder of Whole Foods. It turns out when I met all these people, it's like I found my tribe, These were the people I was looking for in 1998 when I left full-time corporate life because, as I say, my soul was hungry, and I needed to find more meaning and purpose. And then here are people talking this language. This is a movement called conscious capitalism. And the discovery of Raj's research is that organizations who have conscious cultures built on love and care, who have conscious leaders who've done the hard work of self-awareness and inner transformation, who have a higher purpose beyond profit, and who make sure all their stakeholders are integrated in their success. These organizations that follow these 4 tenets are not a little less profitable as a result. They are often 9 times or more profitable than their competition. So being good is good for business. And why would we therefore not do good and be good, and elevate humanity through business? So that's how I have sought to bring my all life is yoga approach, which is Sri Aurobindo's great statement. How do I bring that to therefore business?
Do you feel that this is your calling?
Oh, completely. It's been some years now. My husband's cancer was in 2001, December. My own personal existential questioning began in 1998. So it's a good anywhere between 19 to 22 years. And looking back, I feel I'm a whole new person. I often joke that was my past life.
Yes.
So I have step by step by step by hard step reframed, regenerated, reset, realigned each and every aspect of life: physical, emotional, mental, relational, spiritual,
Yeah.
till it is at a place where I feel congruent inside, right through to what happens around me.
It's a whole new birthing process.
Yes. And I must say, it requires a depth.
Yes.
So it's not for the faint-hearted. We teach the hero's journey, the heroine's journey, Joseph Campbell and Maureen Murdoch's work. And that, no growth comes without having to die in some way. And so the symbolic, the metaphor of, dying on the cross, so to speak, we have to die to this limited old self in order. It's like a shell you have to crack open out of in order to come into who you really are, or what is the next aspect of who you really are. Right. I don't think it ever ends. Thank God. Life would get boring. I don't think we're ever meant to arrive, because then we stagnate.
It's peeling away the layers of that onion, so to speak.
Yes.
And once we do that, I feel the goalpost moves.
Yes.
So then we have a whole new onion to unravel with different types of skills and different types of awarenesses that we have built and developed.
I must tell a story here. So I was in Oro Valley, which is a beautiful yoga center in Rishikesh. And it was their 25th anniversary, and the founder, Swami Brahmdev. So we were all asking him, we were there for the big celebration, and we were in awe of him for having achieved this whole thing from scratch. He set up such an incredibly beautiful institution. So he says, what does it feel like? You're 25 years old as an institution. Look what you've achieved, So he smiled and he says, what do you think when you arrive here? You think the mother, as in the divine, is going to be waiting there with chocolates for you? He says, no, you're going to be given the next level of challenge, the next bigger mountain to climb. So,
that's funny. It is. It's very true. I mean, we often think there's going to be a grand finale. There's going to be a huge celebration as to we've achieved it, we've conquered it, but there's never no end. If we want to change and we want to evolve and grow, there is no end. There is no end to a season.
I would only like to think that perhaps there is a period where we grow through challenge and crisis and pain. But then once we recognize the pattern of growth, then perhaps there is a way to go on that heroic journey more consciously. And so reframe any crisis as just a growth spurt and kind of submit to whatever is the discomfort instead of be taken over by it, to kind of allow yourself to move through it, to kind of try and hold on to your presence, your center, your sense of joy, even through however crazy the situation may be on the outside, So perhaps we can then eventually learn to grow from joy to more joy. And not look at the discomfort as a bad thing, but perhaps reframe it like a mother would a labor pain, saying, I'm going through this. If I learn how to breathe through the labor, then maybe I don't have to feel so much pain. And best of all, there is a baby on the other side of this experience. Right?
That's a wonderful analogy. I like that. Yes, absolutely. And also recognizing that at the beginning of the journey, the pain and the challenge can be pretty profound.
Yes.
There's a lot of work that needs to be done to create the awareness, to create the skills like you've shared. But I feel as we evolve and as we become more aware, our lens increases and our awareness opens up and it expands to a greater vantage point that gives us a better handle on how to manage it. Whereas in the early stages, it's very narrow focused. And that I think in itself can cause challenges, but I think it's a progression.
Yes.
It's a progression of narrow and expanding out. And the more we expand out in our vision, we do energetically and consciously too.
Yes. So one of the things during COVID that my husband and I taught is a short workshop called the Inclusive Eye. Mm-hmm. And how to hold each other without losing ourselves, as Helen Sidra would say, Helen Sidra Stone, the psychologist, would say, or we call it how to hold identity lightly. And we begin with this contracted self. And if we wish to experience more ease and flow in our life, we have no choice but to keep expanding into our most inclusive I self.
Absolutely.
That knows how to see each other as aspects of ourselves. Absolutely. And the sense that we are one, there is no other. I am just another you, and I am here to be me. I'm a follower of Sri Aurobindo and the Mother, and she says the real practice is to try and place yourself in the eternity of time and the infinity of space.
That's powerful.
Yes.
That's something to mull over. I want to get to these other questions that I have, but that definitely is a pondering statement, for sure. And hopefully one that brings others to a depth, to the eye, and the profound opportunity we have at this moment to be part of that and to be part of others as we evolve and as we change as an individual, but also on a global energetic space. There's so much happening in the world right now.
Yes. Even though we say it never ends, the more we can hold the whole, the more we will feel like we have finally arrived into some level of ease. That's the work. So I guess for me, we can do all the podcasts, etc. But my invitation to the listeners is find a practice and put in the time to master it.
Yes.
It's like we spend years, if we want to be a musician, we will spend years practicing that instrument. We want to be a dancer, we will spend years learning how to dance. So becoming a more conscious being takes the same kind of intention and practice. Of course, they say finally it's grace and, suddenly, voila, you are enlightened and awakened. But you worked hard to get to that moment.
Absolutely.
Either in this lifetime or a previous one,
Yes.
Depending on what belief system you follow. We have to prepare ourselves before we can experience these states of ease and flow and mastery, right? Mastery takes practice.
It's a huge sense of commitment and investment. Yes, time seems to be either slower or faster, depending on the lens that you look at it. It's where you want to invest it. Do you want to invest it by watching that black box called the TV and having your focus and attention go outwards, or do you want to invest it in yourself, where there is a possibility and a high probability of the impact that you make can be much, much higher? What do you feel are your attributes that you have crafted and created to becoming who you are and instilling all these other values and, I guess, beliefs?
I think I've always had the strong sense of looking for the good and doing the right thing. I've always had a sense of right, that there's a deepest sense of right. And later I discovered there's a word for it called dharma, that to know your dharma, which is to know your deepest right, your deepest good, your deepest true, your deepest beautiful, and to operate from there, to be unafraid to own that and to express that. That's one attribute. The other attribute is a deep sense of joy. And I think it comes to me from being a dancer. When I dance, I am ecstatic with all life, and I'm in touch with the ananda, the bliss, which is supposed to be the innate delight of existence. So I feel that joy, and that joy is a great value I hold and I look for, and I value it. What's the point of life if you can't find the joy in it?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. That's what we're all really here to experience, right?
Yes. Yes. The other thing is, because on the trot, my whole life has brought me some pretty severe challenges, especially with the most loved ones in my life. I have learned to cultivate deep wells of faith and faith-based resilience. I find courage from my faith. I find a reciprocity with my higher self and the divine. And one quality would be learning to enjoy what we call the mythopoetic life. To that life is essentially meaningless, as they say in the Buddhists. That. But if you want to make high quality meaning from it, you can enjoy a high quality experience. So I love looking at everything that happens, not just for its ordinary factual aspect, but I also love finding the mythology in it, the myth in it, the poetic nature and the mystery.
Yes. Yes.
And then suddenly the ordinary becomes extraordinary.
Absolutely.
It gets a rasa, it gets a juice.
Yeah.
And so I would much rather live with the juice and the rasa of even the ordinary, instead of just say, hey, it's just ordinary.
Right. It's finding the magic, it's finding the uniqueness, it's finding the real essence of what it has to offer.
Yes. So I'm always looking for the root of ananda in everything.
Beautiful. That's such a powerful way of looking at life, I guess really the beauty and the essence of what it's truly gifting, rather than just being an object or a label or a thing.
There was this Will Smith movie called Collateral Beauty, and
yes,
I must say it struck me, that even in the most horrific things that happen in our world, if we can look for the beauty, which is always there somewhere, in a small act of human kindness, or
yes,
the response to horror that people bring, people rise in their humanity when something around them has fallen to its darkness. Even that is so precious. I think if we as humans fully open to the incredible beauty and poignancy of life, our hearts would break open, and perhaps we can't bear so much beauty, and therefore we would much rather keep ourselves a little numb.
yes. But it's the opportunity to do that. And I think it's indicative of your journey and your unraveling and courageous introspection to be able to see that beauty in every single thing. Because once you can only see it with the lens that you have. And if that lens is not developed, if that muscle hasn't developed, if that space isn't there, whatever you want to call it, then you can't see it in that light.
Yes. So the Shakti Fellowship and all the Shakti leadership work that I teach is really about helping build that lens. And it can be trained, it can be cultivated. It's a muscle you can build.
Absolutely.
And then you can start experiencing reality in a very different way.
Absolutely. So you've had so many powerful conversations and experiences yourself, from the corporate world to life challenges with your husband and your own self-discovery journey, and tapping into all these amazing, high profile to a certain degrees and impactful people, creating these courses, creating a space and an opportunity for individuals to heal and really delve into that space and devour what is available to them. What's next for you? What's the future going to look like in your world? What do you inspire to be?
I've been offered some funding, and it's come in a very unexpected way as a grant. And so I can now build the dream of creating the Shakti mission,
Beautiful.
which is to create 100,000 Shakti leaders by 2030. Women changemakers who will collaborate to create peace, prosperity, and beauty through the exchange of multiple forms of capital. And I truly believe what the world needs is raising up of the feminine principle in leadership and in culture, and that will restore balance. And so if women can be, it's also the SDG 5 from the Sustainable Development Goals. So if I can get women to come together and create change projects towards the other SDGs, then we are kind of aligning our effort with the goal the UN has set of achieving the SDGs by 2030. Yeah, I joke it's some kind of a Shakti Red Cross, it's like a humanitarian network of citizen leaders who are capable of, who've been trained with all these lenses and muscles, who should be able to step up into leadership roles when required in their communities, whether it is to be peace ambassadors or create social impact. Just find those gaps and be able to meet them, because they have been given the skill sets to do so.
Beautiful. That sounds very powerful and really exciting, to arm individuals and women to really shape the world and create a more unison balance together. Absolutely, in unison. We can't do it alone. Back in the day there was, and I probably even still now, the saying is, a child is raised in a community.
Yes.
And it's a similar formula and format, that this earth is a rebirthing process, and it has to be rebuilt in a community, in a balanced community. So I'm excited for your new rebirth.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it. And I'm honored to have had this conversation. Thank you so much, Nilima.
Thank you, Naranjan. It's been a joy.
I'm Naranjan, and you've been listening to Master of Your Crafts podcast. Please subscribe, rate, and review, and join me next week for another episode. Thank you for listening.